Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we'll chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verses 31 to 40.
Pavanah pavatamasmi Ramah shastrabhritamaham Jhashanam makaraschasmi Srotasamasmi janavi Sarganamadhirantascha Madhyam chaivahamarjuna Adhyatma vidya vidyanam Vadah pravadatamaham Aksharanam akarosmi Dvandvas samasikasya cha Ahamevakshayah kalaha Dhataham vishvato mukhaha Mrityus sarvaharashchaham Udbhavascha bhavishyatam Kirtish shrirvacha narinam Smritirmedha dhritikshama Brihat sama tatha samnam Gayatri chandasamaham Masanam margashirshoham Ritunam kusumakaraha Yutam chalayatam-asmi Tejas tejasvinamaham Jayosmi vyavasayosmi Sattvam sattvavatamaham Vrishninam vasudevosmi Pandavanam dhananjayah Muninamapyaham vyasaha Kavinamushana kavihi Dando damayatam-asmi Nitirasmi jigishatam Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam Jnanam jnanavatamaham Yacchapi sarvabhutanam Bijam tadahamarjuna Na tadasti vinayasyat Maya bhutam characharam नान्तोऽस्मि मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परन्तप एष तोद्देशतः प्रोक्तः विभूतेर्विस्तरो मया.
Of creations, I am the beginning, middle, and end. That truth, that reality, the transcendental, God, whatever name you call it, Atman, Brahman, Allah, Father in heaven, Shunyata, whatever you choose to call it. It is the beginning, it is the middle, it is the end. In it we arise, in it we subsist, and in it we are destroyed. This is a common thread across every religious book that you read. Because that is the reality. Everything else that you see is only a superimposition upon it. The mirage is born in the desert, the mirage lives in the desert, and the mirage ends in the desert. When this happens, neither is the desert elated because the mirage is born, neither is it depressed that it is there, neither is it going to cry or get elated when it goes away. The reality always exists. Everything that we see is the froth and the foam. We're missing the ocean. Get more and more involved in all the evanescent things, in all the disappearing things, in all the temporary things. So he says, I am the beginning, middle, and end. Poor thing, you feel sorry for him. He has to actually say this. It's not clear to any of us. Why? Because our whole attention is on something that is barely going to last the day. Suppose somebody is, you were entering a door and then somebody rudely opened it and went in and, pushed you aside. This is very upsetting, very irritating, and how dare people behave like this with us, and don't they have any manners, and haven't they been educated, and so many things. So much reaction for something that I'm not even going to remember tomorrow. Yesterday I was coming back from a meeting, and over here, in Mumbai, they're starting metro work. So they've cut off half the road. There's like just a one and like maybe 2 lanes left to go. And one bright spark had parked his car right there where you can't move. And not even parked it, had parked it there where, there's total traffic jam, and parked it so brilliantly that if this is the payment, he had parked it like this. Can you see? Like this. At minimum, at least park like this. He had taken up more than this space for one car. The whole traffic block, we were all waiting. Nobody knew what has happened because each car, one at a just sort of sliding through. And when you come to that car, the whole world is like, is this man a lunatic or what? Firstly, the metro work has cut the road. Now you have parked your car, and you have parked your car at an angle so that nobody can go through. Very irritating. Especially if you're dashing somewhere, you have one meeting and then you have something else, and then you have something else. But you have to expand your awareness. This thing was parked like this just outside Nanavati Hospital. Can you imagine what may have been happening in his mind or her mind as she parked that car? We don't know. It's created a massive jam for everybody behind. Everybody's cursing. But on the other hand, we don't know why this person has done this. We know that this is just ahead of, or for those who know this area, just ahead of Nanavati Hospital. So expand your awareness and your irritation comes down. You really don't know what this was all about. For all you know, somebody may have been dying. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he picked up an accident victim. I don't know what this person, lady, man, whoever it was, did. So when you start considering alternative views, when you start expanding your consciousness a bit, that irritation flows away. Now you can get so irritated as everybody was, honking, this, that. The thing is, that irritation, that 10 minutes that you were forced to stand there, I don't know how many of those people are going to remember it today. And yet at that time, it was giving every heart attack. So is it even worth it? People do what they do. We have no idea why they do what they do. They may even do something for good reason, for all we know. How much of our time do we spend remembering the higher truth, and how much of our time do we spend on the evanescent, on that which is not going, which is meaningless in our lives? The amount of time I spend choosing which dress I'm going to wear, is it in proportion to its importance in my life? What food I'm going to cook today, is it in proportion? What is the most important thing? And here the Lord is crying out, I am the beginning, middle, and end. It sounds like a pathetic statement. Like you say, oh God, poor thing, he has to say this. Because we don't get it at all. I am the beginning, I am the middle, I am the end. I am. Don't even say the Lord. I am. This personality is a superimposition on me. Let me care more about myself than about this personality. I am myself. When Moses went up to the mount and he heard from God the instructions, he got the whatever the rules are, and he asked this question, who shall I say gave me these edicts? Who gave it to me? So the voice in the mount said, I am that I am. That I am. I am. It is the beginning. It is the middle. It is the end. Everything beyond the I am is just bubbles and froth. I'm a lady. I'm a man. I'm smart. I'm dumb. I'm cold. I'm hot. I'm happy. I'm unhappy. Everywhere the I am is there, but the attention is on the rest. When the attention comes back to me, to the self, to God, to the reality. And we'll keep going out because it's the nature of our senses to rush outside. That's what he said in the Sita Prajna portion, remember? The senses are very powerful. They're pulling us outside. Your intellect has to be powerful and keep yourself inside. Why are you doing this? What are you getting by going outside? How is it helping? Of creations and the beginning, middle, and end, O Arjuna. Of knowledges, I am the knowledge of the self. Why knowledge of the self? Because the knowledge of the self backs all knowledges. The pure consciousness supports every knowledge. If you had to make a formula for knowledge, then that formula would be pure consciousness plus thoughts is equal to knowledge. Omkar, are you there, Omkar?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
You want me
can
to write
you
that
do
down?
that? Yes, please.
Pure consciousness
Plus thoughts pure consciousness plus thoughts is equal to knowledge. Now, knowledge we have. Okay. If I tell you, do you know chemistry? And say, yes, I know chemistry. And then, did you know physics? Yes, I know physics. Do you know Naeem? Yes, I know Naeem. Do you know Jyoti? Yes, I know Jyoti. Now, whenever you claim this knowledge of knowing something, what is happening over here? You have a thought, right? Maybe of chemistry or physics or Naeem or Jyoti or Shilpa or Vedanta or Gita or whatever in the world you have a thought of. Now, this thought by itself is nothing. Unless consciousness backs it. So, if you're not conscious, now what is the use of all this knowledge, of all these thoughts? So, all those thoughts, so suppose it's Einstein, but he's unconscious. Now, where is the knowledge? It's not there, right? Then we are smarter than him because he's unconscious and we are conscious. But pure consciousness is that enabler of the thoughts. Pure consciousness does not know anything. Pure consciousness has no thoughts. But without pure consciousness, there can be no knowledge. Okay, just like the same example of our light bulb example. There is electricity, there is a light bulb. This combination brings about light. It is not the bulb that causes light, because the bulb can be there, but if there's no electricity, there'll still be no light. So light comes because of the combination of electricity and the bulb. Knowledge comes because of the combination of pure consciousness and thoughts. All our knowledge is in thoughts. We don't know knowledge which is beyond thoughts. All thoughts is our knowledge. Now, the thing about this definition of knowledge is it does not get into whether your knowledge is right or wrong. Is this a right belief, wrong belief? All that we're not getting into. Whatever, according to you, you claim to know. You say, my name is Ganga. Whatever you claim to know, correctly or incorrectly is not the point. A cockroach is walking and it says, oh, I can see that there is food there. I mean, I'm going to try for food there. Whatever the thought is enlivened by consciousness. Without consciousness, no knowledge. So he says, of knowledges, I am that consciousness. I am the knowledge of the self. Meaning that you could know anything, correctly, incorrectly. It could be the knowledge of a human, of a plant, of an insect, of an animal, whatever the knowledge is. Pure consciousness is always there, otherwise it cannot be known. So, Of all knowledges, I'm pure consciousness. It's like electricity saying, of all light, I am electricity. Means wherever in the world you see light, artificial light, of course, there will be electricity backing it. So among all the lights, I am electricity. It's in that sense. So,
it's the presence.
yeah, it is. Yeah, pure consciousness is all pervading.
Yes, like being present in your conscious.
No. All of that comes in thoughts. When you say I am present, that means your thoughts are currently in the present. What is pure consciousness? We don't know. That is God. That is the self. That is unknown.
Okay.
But it needs to be there. Otherwise,
yes,
there is no consciousness.
Okay. Thank you.
If it is Rajneesh, if it is pure consciousness, then there will not be any thoughts. Correct. Pure consciousness has no thoughts, Rajneesh. But unless pure consciousness backs our thought, we will not have knowledge. Pure conscious, it's like saying electricity has no light. Electricity by itself has no light. But when electricity backs a bulb, there is light. Is that clear?
Yes, Sangeeta, thank you.
So I am the middle, I'm the beginning, middle, and end. I am the knowledge of the self. That means pure consciousness in all knowledges. Of arguments, I am Vada. Now, this portion of the Gita is, references itself to many things. And of arguments, I am Vada as a reference to Nyaya. The Nyaya philosophy is the philosophy of logic. It is about learning about logic. It has its own parameters and all that. And traditionally, you had to learn how to think before you came to learn philosophy. You were not allowed to learn philosophy. Traditional texts are very clear about what are known as adhikaris, like who is allowed to read this book. So Vedanta is allowed only for people who've done X, Y, and Z before they have come. They should know the rituals, they should know the Vada, they should know the logic, they should know logic means thinking. They should, very interestingly also in Vedanta, one of the stipulations is also that you are a very prosperous person. You know why prosperous? It's very interesting. Because it shows that you have already learned how to deal with this world. From a Vedantic perspective, attaining prosperity is the easiest thing. That's what Gita says. Shipram bhavati, Shipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. Shipram means like that. Shipram hi manushe loke, in this manushya lok, in this world of mortals. Siddhir bhavati, success happens. Success is. Shipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. Karmaja you all understand, I'm sure. What is karmaja?
Born of action.
Very good. See, all Sanskrit scholars. You all remember, right? What does the letter J whenever you see J at the end of a word in Sanskrit, it refers to born, birth. So it's a Upapat Tatpurush Samas, which is a very, very frequent usage in Sanskrit, as you have been hearing. If you hear the word the at the end of the word, that means it is something that gives something. Okay, so if it is ja, then it means born of, like Purvaja. So born of those who came earlier. Purvaja means ancestors. Or which other ones are there? If you say
Atmaja.
Atmaja, yes, born of oneself. Ja is one, Da is one. Like that, there are many. Nya, Tantragnya, that means one who knows the techniques. Nya symbolizes that it's a knower of something. Shastragnya, one who knows the Shastras, one who knows the scriptures. So these are short forms in Sanskrit. So karmaja means born of action. So according to the scriptures, success is shipram quickly. They look down on success because if you have minimum brains, you should be successful in the world because it's not very complicated according to them. What is complicated, what is difficult is getting success in the other world, is finding realization. That is difficult. But success in the world, it's supposed to be, they think nothing of it. You must understand there's a historicity also in this. India was a very rich country and it had full of natural, we have it even now, all the wealth, the natural wealth is a lot in this country. Whether it is whatever, whether it's land or it's minerals or metals, whatever, the whole lot is there. So it was considered to be a very easy thing to be wealthy. What was difficult is to become a human being. So you can see that even in today's world, right? There are way more wealthy people than there are human beings. So he says it's not a big deal becoming wealthy. If you get like 5-10% of Vedantic knowledge, you should become wealthy, you should become healthy, you should become very good at relationships. All that is like, okay, been there, done that. So one of the things which was been there and done that was the study of how to think, which came under Nyaya. So he's referencing Nyaya over here, and he's saying of arguments, I am Vada. Now the subject of Nyaya is of course vast, and I hope one day, and in the university at least, I hope we'll be able to do it. There aren't so many people who are good at this subject, but hopefully we'll find somebody. But the thing is, they gave out an analysis of the different types of arguments that we could have. So there was Jalpa, there was Vitanda, there was Vada. Now, of course, it's too vast a subject to go into, but the fact is that they told us the different types of arguments and how these arguments are supposed to be held. Debates was a very big thing in India in ancient times. I'm sure you know about this, right? That debate was a big thing. There was a lot of philosophical debate that took place in this country, and therefore the philosophies became quite rigorous because they had to reply to all the others. And one of the rules of the debate is that you need to know the other person's subject before you go and debate with them. Suppose I do Vedanta and I want to debate with you who you do some other subject, you do Sankhya. Okay, I'm allowed to challenge you for a debate only if I know Sankhya. Others not allowed to challenge you. So that way you just stop wasting people's time, because debates was taken very seriously. Now on television today, what do? We do Jalpa and Vada. Jalpa and Vitanda. What is this thing? Jalpa is when you say, I'm right. You have decided you're right. And your only purpose is to establish that you're right. Vitanda is you mock the other person. You try to show the other person an idiot, a fool. You don't know what you're talking. This is not any way to argue, please. This is not an argument according to Nyaya. This is a madhouse. So if the poor Nyaya people come into this world and watch our television debates, they'll commit suicide. because there were so many rules of what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. You cannot talk about the other person. You talk about the point, not about the person. We can even practice at home. Every time we get angry with somebody in our house, can we talk about the point and not the person? So Jalpa is all about trying to fix your own opinion and demolish whatever the opinion of the other person is. Vitanda is like mocking that opinion. It's like, just say, oh, it's all useless. But the right way of argument is what is known as Vada. So, we have these terms, Vada, Vivada, Samvada, means it's the use of logic in speaking, use of logic, of good reason in speaking. So what is Vada? Is when you arrive at an irrefutable truth. Both parties agree. When you arrive at an irrefutable truth because of going through steps of logic. That is called Vada. Without Vada, or without this capacity of good reason, there is no Vedanta. There is nothing, in fact. What is there is shouting upon another. So, of creations, I am the beginning, middle, and end. Of knowledges, I am knowledge of the self. Of arguments, I am Vada. Following a sequence of thought and coming to an irrefutable conclusion. That's Vada. So, amongst all the ways that we as human beings can interact with each other, I am the use of good reason in our interactions. That's what he's saying. So if we have good reason, if we are sensible in what we say, in how we say it, respectful, then we are one step ahead of the game. And that is one of the advantages of doing karma also. Recently, there was a big argument amongst the team. And so much argument because each person has his own point of view. But as long as we are managing to stay with Vada, we are good. But the moment we go into something else, that's when the trouble starts. And then finally, the entire team came to a conclusion in everybody's agreement on taking a particular action. And that action was done. And if we could all function like this, how great it would be. Well, hopes for mankind. What is this now? Salil. Oh, Salil, after a long time. If pure consciousness, the supreme state, is all knowledge, not ignorance at the end of the day. Correct. All knowledge at the end of the day is ignorance. Because all knowledge is a coating on the self. There is pure consciousness. The moment you have a thought, you're in ignorance. However, that is the highest level of philosophy, that any thought is ignorance. So, if you want to take it from that standpoint, then I'm the only truth in all the lies, would be how you would do this. I'm the only truth. Everything else is a lie. So you're correct. It is the supreme state, therefore all knowledge. When we say knowledge, we are talking about thoughts. All thoughts are in the realm of ignorance. That's right. Okay. Mukesh. Where does or how does the concept of one person is more knowledgeable than another in the same subject, in this case, does the intellect play a part? And then when do we use knowledgeable and intellect? You are knowledgeable to the extent that your thoughts reflect the reality of the world. That means every thought that we have tries to represent the world in some way or manner. Okay, so you say he's a good man or he's a bad man, then your thought is trying to represent what is in the world. You say this is a table or this is a chair. Your thought is trying to represent what is in the world. So knowledge, worldly knowledge, is correct to the extent that it represents it correctly. That's why science is more knowledgeable than superstition, because superstition is not representing it correctly and science is. So when you say knowledgeable, you mean the thoughts are a correct representation of the reality. This kind of thing, when you have better and better representation, means you understand it better and better, you're more knowledgeable. We say Einstein understands more. How do we say that? Because he has one formula which represents vast amount of phenomena. Or if you take a Vedantic concept such as desires cause agitation, it's huge knowledge. Why? Because it's representing huge degree of our world. Desires cause agitation. Now, every being has a desire. Whenever that being is agitated, this formula will apply. So it's representing a very vast arena of knowledge. So you are more knowledgeable when your thoughts better represent the world. Your thoughts better represent the world when you understand more in terms of the principles involved. I can say that Manoj has a desire to get a car and he's not getting a car and so he's agitated. So how much have I represented? Only Manoj. But suppose I was, sorry, okay, Manoj, there's no such thing, I just made up this story. So but if I say all agitations are caused by desires, then now I have a principle. And a principle is more pervading. And therefore I can understand more of the world. Those who have these principles are more knowledgeable in any field. So if you have it in science, then you would, sort of do it in science, like people like us. We don't understand anything about science. So we have very basic things. You switch on the switch and the light will come on. So our knowledge is very restricted. But for an electrical engineer, he has a whole bunch of stuff around it. So we know the last line, conclusion. What is the conclusion? Switch on the switch, the light will come on. Now you can work this backwards till you go to the principle of electricity. You can go to electromagnetism, you can go to anything, right? So the more you have of the principle, the more knowledgeable you are. Okay. Now, intellect is a method of, is a tool of gaining those principles and applying those principles. Through reflection, you gain the principle, and through application, application means your intellect has to be available at that time. You are able to execute those principles. Is that clear or too complicated, unnecessary? So knowledgeable means my thoughts represent the world more accurately. Intellect means that I have applied, I have reflected. Intellect is what I use to gain those principles through reflection and to apply those principles because my intellect works. Is that clear? Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Janki-ji. Thank you very much.
No, 28% of world's GDP. What 28% of world?
You were saying India was rich, and I was just saying that at that time we had 28% of the world's GDP.
Yes.
That was
okay.
In that reference.
All right, thank you. Yeah, at the point of independence, $2 was 1 rupee, $1 to 1 rupee. And now we are 80 rupees to the dollar. Crazy stuff's going on. So, Monisha, can Jalpa and Vichanda be symbolized by the two sides fighting in the Mahabharata and Krishna Nyaya? Interesting, Monisha. I don't know. You'll have to think this thing through. So if you take it like this, then you will have to assume that both the Kauravas and the Pandavas are on the same platform. But the text tells us specifically that the Pandavas were the good and the Kauravas were the bad. However, these are matters of interpretation. So I guess you can say, you can interpret, you can say that the Pandavas were, for whatever reason of your own, negative. But as far as what the text says, the Pandavas were the good guys and the Kauravas were the bad guys. And the only way that the good guys can overcome the bad guys is if the intellect comes into play. Because both good and bad is in the mind. And unless the intellect comes into play, the bad will keep on killing the good. Because the good will be so sweet and nice and, not do anything, and the bad will come and look down and you're dead, you're finished, end of story.
I was just symbolizing it, thinking that they were not able to come to a decision because I don't know who was good or bad, but it's just that they were the I, me, myself, or they scorned each other, or whatever it is. They could not use logic, and that's how Krishna had to intervene and bring logic to come up to, what was the lovely words you used? You said the irrefutable truth, which nobody could then argue with.
Yeah,
So
but
then there was, so that is the reason I just kind of put that together.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but it would be a stretch, because what
It
Krishna
probably
did,
would.
he made a war happen. He tried his best to speak to them, it didn't work. There's so much report on how much he went to persuade them, use logic, use reason, use emotions, frighten them. The only person, only 3 times in his life, as far as I can recollect at least, only 3 times in Krishna's life, he showed his Vishwarupa Darshana. Vishwarupa Darshana is the what do you call Vishwarupa Darshana in English? The full form of the Lord.
Cosmic form.
The cosmic form.
Virat form. Virat.
Yeah. I'm just trying to. Ganga, are you familiar with this? In the Gita, he shows his full form, and Arjuna can see the whole universe in that form. So, only thrice in his life, once when he was being a naughty child and his mother caught him, he showed it to her. Second is to Duryodhana. See, you can understand he shows his mother because Mother Yashoda is a pure person and she loves her child and out of deep devotion. Arjuna also, deep devotion, so he sees the Lord in his cosmic form. But why Duryodhana? He's a negative fellow. He's a bad fellow. If God has to give darshan, should he be giving it to him or give it to us? We are good people. He's a bad fellow over there. Why is he giving him darshan? So, what does that mean? Krishna did everything in his ability to stop the war, including terrifying Duryodhana, because he showed his Vishwarupa Darshana. So Duryodhana should have got frightened, right? And said, oh, I can't fight this man. But that's not what happened. He was adamant. He said, I don't care what you do, I'm going to fight this war and I'm going to annihilate the Pandavas. He's deeply negative, deeply hate-ridden. So you can't put Pandavas on the same platform as him. On the other hand, the Pandavas said, okay, give us 5 villages. Okay, 5 houses. He said, no, I will not give you land enough to put on the tip of a needle. You can't put these two on the same. Of course, Pandavas will have their faults. You can't put them on the same platform. I mean, like you and I, we have our faults, but we are not on the same platform as, let us say, Osama bin Laden or something. We're not like that. Having good people having faults is different from bad people. All of who in this class can say that we are devoid of faults? We all have faults. But on the other hand, none of us are the Kauravas, or we wouldn't be studying Vedanta. Okay? So it's difficult to put them on the same platform like that. Now, where were we? So, of arguments, I am Vada. Vada, a logical sequence of thought by which you arrive at an irrefutable truth. And it's so irrefutable that you cannot refute it anymore. You cannot deny it because it is what it is. Or is there something else? Then, okay, verse 32 clear. Anybody has any problem with verse 32? If not, we'll go to verse 33. Aksharanam karosmi dvandva samasikasya cha ahamevakshaya kalaha dhataham vishwato mukham aksharanam karosmi dvanda samasikasya cha ahamevakshaya kalaha dhataham vishwato mukhaha. Aksharanam aham akaraha. Akaraha is the name of the letter A. So akaraha, the shape of A. So the one makes A. Aksharanam ahamasmi akaraha. I am A, the sound A in letters. Now why A? Why did he choose A as the best sound in all the letters? For various reasons. In Sanskrit, in English also, the alphabet start with the letter A. All languages start with the A sound. The child also at birth can say say, no? So the Shruti says that all sound is represented by A. Now, I don't know whether you're aware of this, but in the Hindu tradition, when the child, at the first ceremony, when he's going to speak, that ceremony, they write the letter A on the tongue. You're aware of this? The priest is supposed to come and write A on the tongue of the child. It's called Aksharabhyasa. Now, all this is so difficult to explain in English, but if you were doing this in Sanskrit, it will all become so obvious. Akshara means letters. That is even in Hindi, right? Akshara means letters. Akshara also means non-perishable. There's a pun on that word. So Shara is perishable. Akshara is non-perishable. So he says, I'm the A of the Akshara. So when you hear it in its original language, then it becomes sort of clear. But when you're translating it and doing it in another language, it becomes a little complicated because then you know what is connecting to what. So basically he's saying, I am the imperishable in language. I suppose you can translate it like that. How else would you translate it? In other words, all akshara means all letters are meant only to speak of the akshara, of the imperishable. And the Upanishad says, desist from all other talk. Don't talk about anything else. Means don't give emphasis, don't give importance to anything else. There's one thing to give importance in this world to. Everything else is just froth and foam. Please don't misunderstand. That doesn't mean you become negligent to the things of the world. It's just that for you, they're no longer a big challenge. Imagine that we are talking now from the perspective of Vedanta, right? So here's a very mature person. All these challenges, trials and tribulations and all are really not bothering him that much. And so his whole focus or her whole focus is on that imperishable. In that sense, not in the sense that you remember God and you forget the world, not in that sense. The world has become too easy for you, and therefore you don't really think about it that much. It's like saying you don't think about brushing your teeth, right? You just do it. It's a matter of fact. So similarly, you don't think about good relationships or earning money or any such thing. You just do it. It's a matter of fact. It's just a normal everyday activity. Like how you have a bath. You have a bath every day, and so you do all your other stuff every day. It is in that sense, but people misunderstood it and said, oh, think only of God and don't do anything else. How can that make any sense? As if you stop brushing your teeth because you're a spiritual sadhak, or you stop having a bath or something. That'll be terrible. If you are that type, then we are happy that the classes are online. Otherwise, it would be quite difficult for the rest of us. So, I am of letters, I am a. Now, in English, that makes no sense. Of letters, I am a doesn't really convey anything. But if you say it in Sanskrit, it makes more sense. Of the aksharas, I am a. Akshara means letters, right? Shara means perishable. Akshara is the imperishable. The way you can even look at this is the letters are always imperishable in the language, but the words you keep making with them, they all perish, right? So once you take it in the original language, it becomes sort of easier to understand. That is why, please, everybody, make some attempt to get some glimpse into Sanskrit. You don't have to become Sanskrit scholars because you're going to become Vedanta scholars. So don't try to become Sanskrit scholars as well, but some attempt. That's why we have the Sanskrit classes. So please attend them. There are 2 Sanskrit classes, one for those who have been studying for some time, one for those who are starting, but whatever. If you are not fitting in either of these classes, we'll start yet another class. No problem. But some basic knowledge we all should have. Then comes, oh, it's a lot of Sanskrit today. Dvandva samasikasya cha. Samas. Samas is this very, very interesting thing in the Sanskrit language. Sandhi and samas. Sandhi we have a little bit in English also. Like when we say can't, don't. There is sandhi in the sense, do not, we sort of encapsulate into don't, or cannot, we make into can't. So similarly, there are lots of sandhis and very, very rule bound in Sanskrit. And one stage higher than the sandhis is what is the samas. Now, samas is a way of saying a lot of stuff in very few letters. Like that J business. So if you want to say Naim's son in English, Naim, you have a son?
Yes, Jankiji.
Okay, so Naim's son, we want to call him, but we don't know his son's name. We haven't met his son. So how do we call him? So if we were talking in Sanskrit, we could just say Naimja if he's a son, and Naimja if he's a daughter, because born of Naim. Now, the problem is also that, he could have written a book also, in which case we could also call the book like this. We could also call the book Naimja, means born of, created by Naim. So these samas is as such that you're saying a lot in little, in fewer letters. Now, of all the samasas in the world, there are broadly speaking, quite broadly speaking, 4 types of samasas. Avyayi bhav, where the first word is important. Samas means 2 words, right? They have to be joined. So in Avyayi bhav, the first word is important. In Tatpurusha, the second word is important. In Bahuvrihi Samas, you're talking of something else. I'm going too fast now. Okay, let's start again. 4 types of samas, broadly speaking. First type of samas is where the first word is important. It's known as the Avyayi bhava, like Adhihari. Adhihari means in Hari. First word is important. The second type of samas, the second word is important. Okay, like Sitapati, Sita's husband. So when you're talking of Rama, you say Sitapati. So second word is important because you're speaking of Rama. The third type of samas, the 2 words, neither of those 2 words count because you're speaking of something else. Like suppose you say Pitambara. Pitambara refers to Krishna. Those are his clothes. That's the color of his clothes. Or Nilakantha. Nilakantha means blue neck. So Shiva is supposed to have a blue neck. So we say him with the blue neck, meaning Shiva. All right. And the 4th type is Dvandva Samas, where both words are equally important. Like Rama Lakshmana. Rama Lakshmana. And both words are important. So he says, among the samas, I am Dvandva Samas, where both words are equally important. So I'm supposed to be, so he has chosen Dvandva as the best samas. I am everlasting time. Akshaya Kala. In the base of time, or on the base of time, everything happens. Time stays, everything else goes. Think of the past generation, your great-great-grandfather. They were born, they lived, they died. Then other generations came. Currently, we are here. We are living in time. Then we are born, we live, we die. Then this whole class one day will not be on planet Earth. Maybe 100 years later. Nobody from this class will be here. There'll be a completely different generation, a completely different way, things that we don't understand, language that we don't speak, clothes that we cannot imagine, completely different. So all these changes that take place in time. So he says, I am that indestructible time. That indestructible time that causes the destruction of everything else. That on the base of that, everything gets destroyed. Nothing is going to last. I mean, you look at the skies and you look at the sun and you look at the moon, you look at the continents. You think that they will one day be here and we will not one day be here, which is true. We are shorter in our lifespan. But the fact remains that neither the stars, nor the suns, nor the moon, nothing's going to be here. You know, the continents are shifting. What were the continents earlier? What are the continents now? We say we are India, and India is part of Asia. No, at one time it was not. There was no Asia. You know, this whole peninsula of, which is now called India, went into the mainland, and therefrom rose the great Himalayas because of the big traffic jam that they created. Whole land rose up. and the Himalayas, the mighty Himalayas were created. So there was a time there was no Himalayas. There was a time where India was not attached to the mainland at all. And there's a time that again maybe it won't be. Who knows what the future holds? There was a time when dinosaurs walked this planet. A whole species has gone. And a brand new species is now here. And who knows in future which species will be there. But what has stayed? Time. Time is it. I am the imperishable, the everlasting time. When everything has a, what is the common denominator in all happenings is time. So he's trying to show us that, right? That he is there and nothing else is. Or she is there, whatever you want to call him or her. He says, I am time. I am Kalaha, in whose presence all this happens. Okay, so that's it for today. Yes, Bharat.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Hari Om, everyone. Next Sunday, we won't have the class, the morning class. We'll meet in the evening for Swamiji's annual Guru Purnima talk, 24th July, 7 p.m. India Standard Time. The registration link has been shared on the group. We'll share it again for those who missed. And please share.
I thought we were just giving a watch link, no?
No, we're giving a registration link.
Mahesh?
But we'll update on the group to everyone.
Yeah, we'll update on the group. We'll update it on the group, yeah.
So if you all have not heard Swamiji, please listen to him. If you have heard him, then I don't need to tell you to listen to him. But if you have not heard him, then definitely listen to him, because every knowledge has a lineage, and that is our lineage. It is from there, that is the original. You're listening to the abridged. So one day at least, listen to the original. Listen to the master who has thought about this, studied it, preserved this, taught it, and continues to be a beacon light for everyone, even at the age of 95. So please attend. We're canceling morning lecture because, maybe people cannot put in 2 hours on a Sunday. So whatever you are going to do at that time, do it in the morning, and evening you will all listen to Swamiji. Okay. Hari Om.
It's a great privilege
Hari
for
Om.
us in Paris.
It's a privilege for us everywhere to be able to hear.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And pleasant moments ahead of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Janki.
Hari Om Janki Ji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Janki.